And we're back. Okay, the salting process. So I've gone ahead and cleaned up most of the area that I could. I tried to wipe up as much of the ice that I could. Like I said, you're going to get a lot of water coming out of this bird in the next 48 hours after you salt it and you stick it into the refrigerator. So the salting process, let's talk about this. So I like to use kosher salt, right? Mixed with some regular salt. This is Himalayan pink. Make sure your hands are nice and clean. You've washed them with soap and water. You've dried them thoroughly. When you're touching things that you might potentially touch, the bird with or whatever. Either way, you're going to have to do a complete sanitational wipe over everything, the whole counter, the boards. You're going to wash everything thoroughly when it's all said and done after you've stuck your bird in the refrigerator. So let's go ahead and do this. So what I want to do is I want a good mix of regular salt, that much, maybe that's like 2 or 3 tablespoons, and maybe an equal amount of the kosher salt. Whoops. So kind of like a 60-40 mix. 60% kosher salt and maybe like 40% of the regular salt. And you may not use all this, but whatever you do from this point forward, your hand's going to be going back and forth salting the bird. Dry hand, wet hand, right? Dry hand, wet hand, or whatever hand you want to do. If you want to do it the other way, where your right hand is the wet hand, your left hand is the dry hand, whatever works for you. But once you do this, this is one of the key, most important factors: is put your original salt away, because you don't want to touch that anymore. And you want to put this box or your kosher salt away as well, because you don't want to touch that anymore after you've touched this. And whatever salt is left over that you don't use, just toss it. It's pennies on the dollar. Toss your salt. Make sure to wash your bowl with soapy water, warm soapy water. You kind of get the idea when the process is all said and done. So I feel like I've got a good mix here, or a good mix. Now what I want to do is I want to just go ahead and grab like a whole handful of this, and literally and liberally just go ahead and start salting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this in, and it's okay. Remember, dry hand, wet hand. So what I'm doing is I'm just massaging the salt into the bird. If you can go underneath the skin, like I wouldn't try to separate the skin from the bird entirely, but if you can go into like a pocket or two, this is all flavor. So just drop a little bit in there, and then massage this way too. Remember, wet hand, dry hand. So the wet hand now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the bird a little bit, try to get that in there. Maybe a little bit more this way. A lot of this salt will actually melt away when it pulls the moisture out as well. So that's another key factor to remember there. Okay, here there was a little pocket, and I actually went in there with some paper towels. You can actually just double check. If you do get a pocket like this that was created by, the packing process, just go ahead and try to sop up as much of that extra moisture as you can, and just drop a little bit in there as well. Kind of massage it in. Your towels, just have like a little trash bag in the sink, or like open up your trash bag or whatever, and just try to get as much of the contaminated stuff into the trash as soon as possible. Okay, the wings of the bird and everything else, the same thing. I'm just going to go dry hand with the salt over and just kind of massage some of that in right over here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Wrangle, right? So same kind of vibe over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of the salts. I'm going to do underneath the arms, right around there. Basically what you're doing is you're just putting the salt on the bird, so that when you put the bird on the cooling rack and on the actual baking tray in the refrigerator for 2 days, right? You're going to do 1 day on one side, then you're going to flip it over and do the second day on the other side. This is pulling out all of that extra water that was there, all the ice that you saw me take out during the packing process. And like I said, a lot of the salt will melt away. What doesn't melt away will help to flavor and tenderize the meat as well. So I feel like I've got both sides here pretty good, or at least both halves of the turkey pretty good. Now it's time to flip. This is a 14-pounder, but I'm going to go ahead and flip it. Now we're breast side up. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this paper towel here. That goes in the trash. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is just recenter my bird. And then with whatever salt is left over, so I would say I had like 4 tablespoons of the regular salt and maybe 6 tablespoons of the kosher salt. I'm left with just enough salt to do this side, to do the breast side. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing. Be liberal with it, but try to scatter as much as you can. Also hold your hand up a little higher, right? So that if you're a little bit further away from the bird, that'll help to evenly distribute that salt. But you just want to kind of massage it in, get it all in there, right? Get this side too, that's fine. Get the drumstick, get what's underneath the drumstick, get the inside of the wing. Same thing over here, inside of the wing and the drumstick again. And like I said, if you do this correctly, right, you should be left with just barely any salt left. So now here's where you can kind of go and get those hard to reachy areas, right? Like inside the wing, under the wing. Maybe do like a quarter turn, get around the thigh area. Like I said, this is also going to help crisp up the skin when you do go ahead and stick it in the oven after 2 days that it's been sitting in the fridge. But when you do go ahead and pop this in the oven, that little salt on there is going to give you a little bit of extra flavor. Oh, that is so good. I can already tell this is going to be one of those birds that's going to come out great. Okay, last little bit of salt here, putting it down there, putting it inside, getting it on the skin. Okay, so there we are. So now the transfer, right? This is the famous moment. If you've got a little bit of leftover salt, that's totally fine. Okay, which side do you do first? Breast side up or breast side down? Honestly, I don't think it really makes a difference, but because this side is like, let's call this the sealed side with the skin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the open side, the back side butterflied open. I'm going to try to open it out as much as I can. And when I open it out, hopefully all that moisture comes out, goes into, right, the baking sheet with the paper towels. So I would say like at least twice a day, you should check this and see how much liquid has accumulated or built up, how much of that excess water, like packing water, has come out of the bird. You may need to like take your cooling tray with your bird, set it aside, change out the towel, wash the pan clean with warm soapy water, dry it off with paper towels, put your cooling rack and your turkey back on again. You may need to do that two times a day. 2 times a day, maybe even 3 times a day, depending. The first day is going to be the worst. The first like 12 hours is going to be the worst, where you're going to get the most amount of water that's going to come out. But once you reach a point after, I would say 2 days or 48 hours after doing the process, you should be at a point where there's no more dripping liquids, right? The skin might look a little leathery, which is totally fine because you're going to put butter on it when you bake it anyway, or some kind of oil if you use avocado oil, olive oil, whatever the case may be. So you're going to be basting this thing anyway. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the more you can dry out the turkey using this method for those 2 days, the juicier the turkey is going to get, the crispier the skin is going to become, and the more flavorful the bird's going to be. If you are one of those people that you like to use this special seasoning that you have or whatever, I would wait till day 2, after the first 24 hours. So I would wait at least 1 day after this process before you put any seasoning on. The reason why is because if you had some special like parsley, orange zest, lemon zest, whatever spices you want to use that you put in there now, the salt pulling the water out, the extra packing water, is also going to carry all your flavorings off of the bird, and it'll never have a chance to get in there. So that's why you want to wait at least 1 day, at least 24 hours after it's been in the fridge in this configuration before you apply your seasoning under the skin, in the skin. If you're going to do the injection method where you're going to inject the bird with some kind of liquid seasoning, I would wait at least 2 days. Let 48 hours go by before you inject it. Maybe inject it like 6 hours before you bake it, or 4 hours before you bake it. That way, because think about it, you just pulled out all of that packing water. Now you're going to put more water into it, or liquid seasoning, teriyaki sauce, whatever, soy sauce, whatever crazy seasonings you want to use. Anyways, we're at this point now. Let's continue. So like I said, I'm going to do breast side up. I'm going to try to open up the bird from the back as much as I can. And then I'm going to try to see all this excess skin. This is going to make great crispy skin when it's all baked off. You can cut it off if you want to cut off a little piece. Totally fine. But between the drying and the this and the that and everything else, trust me, I think you'll be okay. So anyways, what I want to do is I want to open this turkey up a little bit, get it on my rack, and pull, and just try to get it as spread out as I can something like that. Does that make sense? Something like this. And even more, even open wings like this is totally fine. Like I said, this was a half sheet, like a half baking sheet. Let me come out here so you can actually see what's going on. So I've got a half sheet baking sheet with a half sheet cooling rack on top. Both Volrath, I'll put links down below in the description. Check out the video just prior to this one to see a more in-depth explanation of what I did to get to this point. Anyways, we're at a point right now where I think I'm good, right? I've got good evenness on the tray and all that. Here's where you got to make room in your fridge. Hopefully you have enough room. And by the way, clean as you go. See all this sopping packing liquid and whatever other juices are on there? This would be a point where like paper towels are your friend, because you don't want this to get all over your countertop. I mean, even though we're going to disinfect the countertop entirely, try to just, prevention is one ounce of prevention is like the key to success, or whatever the expression is. But anyways, we're here, we're salted. I'll see you in about 24 hours. So 24 hours from now, I'll do another video, give or take somewhere around that time, and I'll show you all the progression of this. But it's important, make sure that you have like your whole bird fits on the tray, right? So your corners, your wings, whatever, make sure that the whole bird fits on the tray. If you want to tuck these in, if it's a visual thing and you want to tuck them in, that's totally fine too. I just want to leave them open for now, just so that I can get better aeration in there and better removal of that packing water and liquid. If you want to give it one last pat down before you stick it in the fridge, because that salt works pretty quickly, you can do that. Just do something like this, where you've got 2 paper towels, 1 in each hand, and just gently, because remember, it's already salted. Gently just do one of these to pat down this side. You can do something like that. But as you can see, I know it might not show up on the camera, but as you can see, the paper towel already had like a drop or two of whatever packing liquid was in there. So at this point, you're good to go. Check it in 12 hours. See where you're at. You may have a lot of accumulation of liquid down here, that packing liquid. You may need to, again, lift the whole cooling rack off, put it onto like at least some kind of a prepared surface or whatever, disinfected. The surface, I mean, should be disinfected when you do that. Just go ahead and lift the whole turkey and the the whole cooling tray off. Change out your paper towel, wash your baking sheet, right? Wash the sheet, warm soapy water, dry it off with paper towels, put the turkey back on. You might need to do that twice a day for at least the first 2 days, something like that, or the first day and a half. Like every 12 hours or so, just check it. Anyways, video is getting way too long. I'll see you in about 24 hours. We'll see where our bird is, and then we'll go from there. Anyways, I'm the old Coot. There will be links down below in the description, also in the comments section, and I'll catch you all in the next exciting video.